the farmers, they will just get the crops and give them receipts to pay them later. When the farmers come and claim, they disown the receipts. So we had to do a lot of interventions to just reorganize the system. We came up with a number of initiatives, how to deal with the crop marketing and marketing systems. And of course, on irrigation, the largest component in terms of cost for the agricultural sector development program was devoted to investments in. So these are some of those challenges. And the interventions actually are based on facts on the ground, on the situation on the ground. That is when we say evidence-based. Evidence-based. There is evidence of what is actually happening on the ground, and therefore you have to take the kind of measures that are related to it. Of course, through all these interventions, we have been able to start noticing there is really a turnaround. Certainly, there's increase in food production in the country, and we can gladly say that Tanzania is food self-sufficient. It started marginally, but I think they are going to continue now increasing. In 2020, for example, we exported 200,000 tons of rice. We were net importers, now we are exporting. So it is this kind of intervention. But in life you learn. This is another evidence. You learn from others. With my interest in agriculture and economics of agriculture, when I visited Vietnam, in the reports, because you get a briefing from the country, in the reports, Vietnam had become one of the largest exporters of rice in the world. But this is a country that started the reforms in 1986. Just like we in Tanzania started the reforms in 1986. How come? How did they get there? I visited, after talking to my colleagues in Foreign Affairs, I visited the Ministry of Agriculture, sit down and talk to the people there. How did they do it? Because they also had a similar program. But the interesting thing about them is that they had a big brother, or call it a big sister, who underwrote that program. Japan supported the program of Vietnam. When I went to Indonesia, the same I was told by Indonesia, that Japan supported the program. And in Indonesia, they said, no, if you can develop that program, we will also help. If Japan helps us, we can also come there and help you. Japan is particularly interested in its neighborhood. Take Japan from there. So we developed our own agricultural sector development program, but there wasn't much support as the Vietnam. Okay. So I'm saying this is one of those evidence of what we can. So we identified the bottlenecks, came up with programs, came up with solutions. But the other important intervention that we did was with regards to inputs. Now we had a specific program of subsidizing farmers with fertilizers and seeds, which really helped in increasing productivity and production. The other intervention which we took was involving the private sector. In our Tanzanian system, the president is chair of what we call the Tanzania Business Council. This brings together the private sector and the government. They sit down under one roof and discuss issues. So in one of the meetings which I chaired, we discussed the question of agriculture sector. What do we do to transform this sector? And after lengthy discussion, we agreed. Number one, we should all agree, government and private sector, to put agriculture at the top of priority agenda. That is what came to be coined as Kilimo Kwanza, that agriculture first. What did this mean? The private sector should also get involved in agricultural development. They are just commission agents, they are commission agents or doing some other things, but they have neglected agriculture. They should say, okay, fine, you now go join the farming. We'll give you land, we'll give you assurances. That's one. But you said you should also provide services to the private sector. The private sector needs seeds. You can't produce seeds. In fact, currently one of the biggest producers of seeds is a private sector supported by Agric. Yes. One of the largest producers of private seeds. Agric has supported, given them initial capital. Of course, they also got from loan from the banks. They're now the biggest producers of seeds. In the past, we had to depend on seeds imported. But if we import seeds from Minnesota, seeds are soil specific and climate specific. If you import seeds, they may be working well in California, but they do not work well in Tanzania. So we had to build this capacity for seed production in the country. And there where I can say, I sincerely thank Agric for being one of the supporters of the private sector in Tanzania to be able to produce seeds. And we have made progress. We have made progress in this regard because of support from Agric. But we also said they can supply inputs. They can bring in machinery so that we reduce the use of the hand hoe. They can create financing facilities so that farmers can access credit and use this credit to buy inputs and other machinery. Well, but we did not end with the local private sector. We brought in the international private sector as well. When we had the WEF for Africa, because the WEF for Africa used to be hosted in Cape Town. When I was president, I attended the WEF. I spoke to Thabo Mbeki. You're always monopolizing WEF. Can we host it in Tanzania? I said, that's fine. So, but when we hosted a WEF in Tanzania, I asked Professor Krauf, yes, that I want our main theme should be transforming Africa's agriculture. But prior to that, I visited Rome, had meetings with Jack Diouf at that time, who was still with FAO. Kanayo Manze was with IFAD. I spoke to them. And with Kanayo, we said, let's have a conspiracy. Let's develop a conspiracy on how to transform Africa's agriculture. So when we had this WEF meeting in Dar es Salaam, apart from the meetings where Klaus was there busy talking about World Economic Forum, we set like-minded group of people interested in agriculture. I chaired as president, and of course we had the other president with a small p, Kanayo. Yes. It is that meeting that we came up with ideas on what we can do to intensify the transformation of agriculture. At that, we gave assignment to some of our people, some of them are here. We agreed that the next wave now in Davos, that they have come up with ideas. And it is this process that came to create the Grow Africa, which NEPAD was projecting. So, I was saying, but the evidence is clear when it comes to Africa's agriculture. Low productivity, because when you talk about backward, the word may look bad. But it's low productivity, low production, hunger, poverty. The last thing I want to mention is that when I was president, I was looking at Tanzania's economy was growing at 7%. I inherited the economy growing at 7%. But when you look at the growth structure, you see financial intermediation, 9%, industrial, 9%, transit trade, 14%, this one, 14%, agriculture, 4%. So because agricultural growth is 4%, and this is where over 70 to 80% of the people rely upon, that is why there is so much poverty on the African continent. Because the sector that people rely on is not growing fast enough. Economists are saying if a sector grows for 7% for 10 years, the GDP doubles. The GDP of agriculture does not double because there are losses. So this is the other incentive. What is it that we will do to transform the agricultural sector on the African continent? Identify the challenges, identify the constraints, come up with ideas on what needs to be done, but involve the experts in the various fields, involve the private sector, both local and international, involve institutions like AGRA and the others that are interested in the development of agriculture. We will see transformation of agriculture in Africa. Food security will be assured. Poverty will be reduced. Thank you.